caluroso aplauso, por primera vez en México, a Dr. Hill.
Morning. How are you? Well, I'm excited to be here. Ephraim is telling me that I can just speak and that you're receiving simultaneous translation, but I don't believe it. I don't think that's true, but okay, I'm just going to speak. I'm just speaking. I was listening to Ephraim and I got some bits and pieces of some of what he was saying. And I gather you're fairly excited about doTERRA. Is that true?
Yes!
Me too. I'm also excited. I'm grateful to be here today, to be honest with you, for several different reasons. Ephraim is correct. This is my first trip to Mexico. I think I've been all around you in several different ways, but I've not actually been here in Mexico before. So I'm very, very happy to be with you and to share with you one of my passions and what I hope is one of your passions, and that is the essential oils. Are you loving the essential oils?
Yes!
Are you having the same type of experiences that I am?
Yes!
You know, I have to tell you a recent experience that I had with the essential oils. I, for many, many years, have been traveling a great deal. On average, I travel about 300 days a year. And so that keeps me very, very busy, and I have very little time at home with my family. That's both good and bad. The good in that is that I miss my family, and so when I go home, I'm very excited to see them. The bad in that is that they're so used to me not being there, they immediately say, "When are you leaving? Why are you here?" So it comes with a good and a bad mixed in with that. Recently, I went home and I was really excited because I was to have a couple of weeks at home without having to travel anywhere. And we were really looking forward to that as a family. And I became very ill. So much so that I was in the hospital for a few different times. And I was in bed for almost 3 weeks trying to recover. And I, like you, have found that these essential oils provide more than just an opportunity. We are doing more in doTERRA than just building a business. There is an important nature and an important work with what we are doing with the essential oils. And as I recently had the opportunity once again to turn to the essential oils for myself, which is where I found the answers for myself. And in my home, that is what we do. We do the essential oils. That's what we go to, and that's what we have our children go to and our grandchildren. I find great value and great purpose in the oils. And our greatest desire for you is that you have the same experiences, that you have the same opportunity, that you begin to recognize the value that can come from the essential oils beyond maybe how we typically think of them. Now, I have to talk with you just a little bit about doTERRA as a company, mostly because this is my first opportunity to be here, and I feel like there's a lot of information that maybe you haven't heard so much of. You know that doTERRA has become the largest supplier, the largest producer of essential oils in the entire world now. And we're very proud of that, and you should be proud of that too. This is our corporate offices that we built now almost 2 years ago, which we have filled to capacity. It's an amazing place as you go there and you recognize and you see all of the things that go into making doTERRA what it is. But there's another side to this. There's another side that goes beyond just what you see in terms of a corporate structure. Now, I know that Ephraim and his team here have done wonderful things to help you understand more about the essential oils, but if it's all right, I thought I would share with you a little bit about where doTERRA actually came from. You know, doTERRA was a passion of myself for essential oils and my other partners. And originally it was myself and Dave Sterling and Emily Wright, who I think you have met. She's been here before. And the three of us came together and we began these discussions about could we start an essential oil company. Now, a lot of people think that our motivation for that must have been that we just had this desire to build a company and to have all of the benefits that come from that. But I have to tell you, that was never the desire with doTERRA. Our desire was to do something that had never been done before. How many of you were familiar with essential oils before doTERRA, before you were involved with doTERRA? Yeah, many of you. Essential oils are not something that's new. But essential oils, how are you getting simultaneous translation? I don't get this. Do y'all have headsets on that I don't see? Is that what's going on here? Oh, magic headsets. Okay, I'm with you now. Now all of a sudden I believe. I'm a full believer. When we started doTERRA, when I first got involved with essential oils, my mother came to me and asked me, was I sure? She said, but son, you're so well respected. You have a great career. People love you as a physician. Why would you get involved with essential oils? Why would you join a cult? Why would you do something so weird? That was what my own mother said to me. And so I felt a little reserved about my involvement with essential oils, but very quickly I began to have good experiences with them. I also began to have experiences with the frailty of essential oils, and that is that essential oils were weird. If you were involved with essential oils, you were weird. You either were completely uneducated and just didn't know better, or you were on the fringes, and not only would you do essential oils, you would do all kinds of strange things in the name of health or Mother Earth or a number of other things that people would try to attach to them. We recognize this in doTERRA. Dave and I and Emily recognized that this was a barrier for people to really see the value of essential oils. We also recognized another significant thing, which was the fact that essential oils were not clearly defined. They weren't clearly defined for quality. They weren't clearly defined for usage. They weren't clearly defined for the understanding that can come from them. They weren't clearly defined for science. They weren't clearly defined as a therapeutic. And so we spent a great deal of time having discussions about what all of that would look like. I'm sure when Emily came down here, she talked with you about co-impact sourcing. Did she talk with you about that? When Emily and I and Dave first met, we met at a little tiny restaurant in Provo, Utah. And the three of us sat down and we talked for several hours, and we did not talk about how it is that essential oils would be marketed. We didn't talk about a business strategy. We didn't talk about a business plan. We talked only about two things that were critical. One, the quality of essential oils. If we could not source essential oils differently, if we could not provide quality of essential oils, then we had no desire to be involved. We had no desire to form a company. The other great discussion we had was this movement of essential oils into the mainstream, making them available for every single person. We have a goal in doTERRA. Our goal is oils in every home. I believe there's value in that. Now, after many, many years of being involved with the essential oils, I will tell you, I have never met a person, regardless of their circumstance, whom I did not believe could benefit from essential oils. I feel like I'm lecturing to you just a little bit. Do you feel that way? I feel like I'm on my soapbox and I'm saying, this is how it is. You listen to me. And that's not what I'm meaning to do. I'm just passionate about what we're trying to accomplish. And so now we have this big, beautiful company that's the largest in the entire world. Ephraim and I were talking last night, and we were talking about how it is growing continuously and exponentially. Almost 100,000 people will join doTERRA this month alone. And of that group of people, here's an interesting statistic for you. Usually when people get involved in our industry, and our industry is an interesting one. When you start talking about MLM and direct selling, it's an interesting world that we live in that way. Our CEO, Dave Sterling, always says, we are a non-MLM company. We are a non-direct sales company working within that environment. And we chose to work within that industry for one reason only. Essential oils' greatest values come when we share them with other people directly. Not when we go and pull them off of a shelf and try to go home and try to figure out how to use them. It comes differently. And so now we're in this wonderful time in doTERRA where we have this amazing opportunity, but we have a fundamental, key, and important element associated with doTERRA. We must help other people. The greatest experience that I have had with essential oils have always been focused around having an opportunity to help someone else. Sometimes I see things that are miraculous, that almost are beyond description. Never anticipated, never believed that that would happen. Other times I see things that are more routine, more elementary, more basic. I have a grandchild who has an upset stomach or has a fever, where I can use essential oils in that capacity as well. My wife is a lover of the essential oils. I don't know what it's like in your home, but my wife has two nasty habits. One is she gives all of our oils away. And we have to, we don't just get oils, we purchase them as well. She gives all of our oils away. The other habit that she has is she invites everybody to our house so I can solve all of their problems. So I'll come home much of the time, and I'll walk into my home and there'll be strangers sitting in my living room, and my wife will go, "Oh, he's here," and she'll introduce me to each one of them and say, "Okay, well, they're here so you can help them." My wife does that constantly. What a wonderful thing. Yes, we're the largest provider of essential oils in the entire world. But we also have a mission and a purpose that says that we are helping the world. Do you sense, do you feel that you're changing the world? I sense that. I see that everywhere I go. You know, I've had this great privilege now for many years of traveling all over the world. It's a blessing and a curse. What I've noticed is that everybody wants the same things. Everywhere I go, in every culture, we all want the exact same things. We want to know that we personally matter. We want to know that we belong to something. We want to know that people have interest in us. And we also want to feel, and we also want to do and share our interest in others. That is a universal principle. One of the things that I love about essential oils, and especially in doTERRA because of the culture that we have. It allows us this opportunity to give and to do for others. Yeah, I think there are people who will say, well, that's just about building a business. No, it isn't. It's about being bigger than who we are. It's about doing more than what we thought we were ever capable of. When we started doTERRA, it was interesting for some other reasons too. One of which was we didn't have any resources. And when we started doTERRA, it was because we came together and collectively we leveraged everything we owned, everything that we had. We cashed out our retirements. I know for me and my wife, we sold everything we didn't need, as well as cashing out retirements and life savings and everything that we had. We gave to doTERRA, as did my partners. And collectively, we created enough opportunity that we had enough money that we could start the company. Now, in the early days, it was different. It was different when we traveled. Last night, we stayed in a wonderful place, and we felt we had a nice trip down here. We didn't have to worry about anything. In the early days, that's not what it was like in doTERRA. In the early days, if I had to go somewhere, it was me figuring out how to get there. Not the company was going to send me there. The company didn't have any money. If I had to go to New York, then I would have to figure out how to get to New York on my own. And if I needed a place to stay, I would have to try to figure out how to have a place to stay on my own. That meant some interesting things, because also in doTERRA, we didn't take any money for well over a year. When Dave Sterling talks, he says, we went 12 months with no income. And I look back at my recollection of things, and I go, 12 months? Did you start getting paid before I did? Because it was a lot longer than that. We initially said, we'll go 3 months with no income. Can everybody go 3 months with no income? Now keep in mind, we had given everything that we had to doTERRA. We didn't have any resources to fall back on. And I remember thinking, I can go 3 months, I'll figure that out. I don't know how I'll do it, but we'll figure it out. At the end of 3 months, we had a big meeting together, and we said, we're gonna need to go another 3 months. And I went, okay, yeah, I can do that. We can go another 3 months. We'll figure that out. And my wife and I did. It wasn't easy, but we did. And at the end of that second 3 months, we had another big meeting where we had this discussion. And I remember Dave Sterling saying, we're going to need to go another 3 months. And I remember thinking, I can't go another 3 months. I don't know how I'm going to do that. I don't have a lot of debt, but I have to make my house payment. I have to have food for my family. I don't know how I'm going to do this, giving all of my time 100% to doTERRA and no income. And at the end of that next 3 months, now we're 9 months in, we had another meeting to discuss the financial health of the company. Dave Sterling said, we're going to need to go another 3 months with no income. And I remember thinking, I don't know what I'm going to do. Maybe I can deliver pizza at night or something. But I was never home. I was always traveling. 12 months in, we had another meeting. And I'm thinking, finally, we're going to get a paycheck. I know that that's what we're going to talk about today. And Dave Sterling said, we're going to need to go indefinitely with no paycheck. And I remember going home and talking to my wife. And she said, are we going to get a paycheck? And I said, eventually, maybe, we're going to go indefinitely with no income. Now, it turned out a few months later that we were able to take our first check in doTERRA. And it almost made my house payment for that. Almost. It wasn't enough to, I didn't live in a big extravagant house. I lived in a very small, modest home. And my house payment was very low. And it almost, my income that month almost made my house payment. And slowly we started making some headway. That should tell you two things. One is that we are financially and fiscally responsible. What you see before you right now is a company that's very large, but is 100% debt-free. We don't carry any debt. We don't owe a penny to anybody. We're 100% privately held. And that means we have great stability for you going forward. It means that you can count on doTERRA. We continue to make those difficult choices. I remember we'd been in business for about 3 years, and one of my staff members came to me and said, I'm just not making enough money, Dr. Hill. I love working here, and I'm very appreciative of everything that we're doing, but I've got to have a raise or I cannot continue to stay. And I'm listening dutifully, and I'm being very attentive to him. And finally it dawns on him, and he says, I make more money than you do, don't I, Dr. Hill? And I said, substantially more. And he said, I'm good. I'm good. Not only are we fiscally responsible and are we committed to the company, but we have wonderful employees like Ephraim and others who are equally committed to what we're trying to accomplish in doing the right things and in making sure we can continue to grow and to move forward. What that means for you right now is that doTERRA is 100% committed to this market. At the end of last year, the beginning of this year, we always have, we meet often, but we have what we call as a big board meeting, where as owners we come together and we form strategy for the coming year. Mexico is our strategy for this year. We have this and 2 other markets that we have heavy interest in, that we are investing in, and that we are making effort for. So know that the benefit of the size of our company now is all coming to you. Early on, though, this was a challenge. When I traveled, I many times didn't have monies for hotel rooms. I didn't have a place to stay. And so people would come up to me afterwards and they'd say, "Oh, it's such a pleasure to meet you. We would love to have you in our home sometime." And I learned to say very quickly, "Is tonight okay?" Because I wouldn't have a place to stay. I remember doing a meeting in the Midwest. I think it was in Nebraska or Ohio. I don't remember which. And being fearful that no one would come to the meeting that we had to talk about doTERRA. And I and one other person spent the day knocking on doors and inviting people to come to our meeting. We had about 12, 14 people came to our meeting that night. An interesting thing about doTERRA, even though we had this strong grassroots movement, there was always the stability of people love essential oils. It works for them. It changes their life for them. It creates opportunity for health. It creates opportunity for service. And it drives them in a way that sometimes they never thought possible. And so people become very attached to doTERRA because they find personal meaning in doTERRA. They find personal value in doTERRA. My wife said to me one time, "I hope when you die, my next husband loves oils as much as you do." People become full. I know, isn't that mean? I'm thinking I'm just going to move to Mexico. You'll probably treat me better than my own family does. It means that people become very committed. Here's something that's interesting about doTERRA. If Corey Lindley were here, he's our Chief Financial Officer. If Corey were here, he would talk with you about a lot of interesting statistics of doTERRA. I promise you we're going to talk about oils today. We are. But I really want you to understand why we love doTERRA so much, why we're committed to doing the things that we're doing. Why is it that we're the largest oil company in the entire world, but I still travel about 300 days a year? Why do I do that? Not because it's good for me, not because it helps me be healthy and strong. It wears me out. It wears me down. But because I, like you, am committed to doTERRA. I'm committed to it. I'm committed to the process, just like you are. 70% of everyone who has ever joined doTERRA from more than 8 years ago when we started is still with doTERRA because they love the products. They love what it's doing for them, and they find pleasurable outcomes. So my greatest desire for you, I have a message that comes not just from me, but on behalf of all my partners in doTERRA. I don't know you, and much of the time you probably don't know me. We've not met personally. But I want you to know we do know you, and we care about you, and we love you. And we are deeply appreciative for all the things that you're doing, because at some point, it's evident to me and to my partners, at some point, doTERRA ceased to be ours and became yours. doTERRA is your company. It's who you are. I remember Dave Sterling a few years ago, we had this big meeting and we were all very concerned because of the size of the company was growing exponentially. And Dave asked a question. He said, how are we going to maintain the heart and the soul of a small company? And we were perplexed by this for several weeks. And in a follow-up meeting, we all kind of had this big epiphany at the same time. We're not going to be able to do that. But you can. You are. And for that, we are forever grateful. You are a part of something that's bigger than who you are as an individual. It's bigger than who I am. It's bigger than who we are collectively, because of the impact that it is having on people across the world. It's an exciting time to be involved with doTERRA. So thank you. And with that, do you want to talk about some oils? Yes, me too. So let's talk about some oils.